Are you all ready? Shall I start? How many of we are here? 62 out of 85, 62. Okay. So in previous class, we discussed about mechanical events during muscle contraction. Today, let's continue it. Okay, so in last class, we discussed about the muscles. If you recapitulate, then here what we can see is the whole muscle are group of muscle fibers. So of course, we know that it is made up of myofibrils. Myofibrils bundle together to form the muscle fibers. Muscle fiber group of muscle fibers bundled together to form the fascicles, and group of fascicles bundled together to form the muscle. So each muscle is composed of group of muscle fibers, and these muscle fibers are surrounded by connective tissue. And here we can see the muscles attaches to the bone. Here on either side, the muscles are attached to the bone by tendon. This is the tendon. So look at here. This muscle fiber or myofibrils, they are the contractile component. Actin and myosin present in the myofibrils. They are contractile component. They contract. Then the connective tissue which surrounds these muscle fibers, they are parallel. Since they are arranged parallel with the contractile component, they are called parallel elastic component. And tendon, they are connected parallel in series with the contractile component, so they are called series elastic component. So both this tendon as well as the connective tissue, they have capacity to stretch. They are called elastic because they are plastic in nature. They can either stretch or during relaxation they again come back to their normal position. They have the elastic property. They behave like a elasticity. This tendon behave like a spring. They stretches during the contraction, and then again due to their inherent capacity, they have the intrinsic capacity again come back to their normal position. So here in isotonic contraction, the tension developed in the muscle during contraction remain constant. Iso is the same, and tension, the tension which develop in muscle during contraction remain the same. But in this type of contraction, the length of the muscle fiber decreases during the contraction. And this happens because of the contraction of contractile component as well as parallel elastic component and series elastic component. So overall function is the effect on the muscle is the length of the muscle decreases. While in isometric contraction, again here the name by name itself, isometric, meaning the length of the muscle fiber remain constant during contraction, but here the tension developed in muscle during contraction increases. Though the length remain constant, look at here, in isotonic contraction, there is fluctuation in length of the muscle fiber, while in isometric contraction, there is fluctuation in tension of the muscle fiber. Here the muscle fiber either increased, here the tension developed in the muscle fiber during contraction increases, while here the length of the muscle fiber shortens, decreases during the isotonic contraction. So these are some different similarities and difference between the isotonic and isometric contraction. And this happens because of the stretching of series elastic component, that is the tendon, which attaches the muscle with the bone. And one important point over here is the tension that is produced within the sarcomere or within the muscle. This is dependent on the number of cross bridge formation. Look here in the muscles, the tension developed in muscle is directly proportional to the number of cross bridge formation during contraction, muscle contraction. And tension generated here in the muscle by contractile component transmitted to the bone via either connective tissue or to the tendon. And as this contraction, as this tension transmitted to the bone, now the bone, force applied to the bone moves the bone against the load. So here the muscle contracts and the bone, the force applied to the bone moves the bone against the load, and thus the muscle shorten or elongated, and we are able to do work. So this was the recapitulation of the last class. We did all those contraction, the isotonic contraction and isometric contraction in our previous class. In this figure, what you can see, the muscle is removed, isolated from the frog. Okay, and the experiment was done. This will be discussed in detail when we do the dry practical, okay, in physiology. So here I just like to give you some hints. The muscle was isolated from the frog, and then it is fixed, and one end of the muscle is connected to the kymograph. Kymograph, here there is a reading pencil attached to the kymograph, and the kymograph is moving. And here on the muscle, the stimulus is applied. When single stimulus applied, then a particular type of twitch can be recorded, that is called the muscle, simple muscle twitch. And then when the stimulus is applied within this latent phase, then you can see the effect. Again, when the stimulus is applied in contractile phase, then you can see the another effect. During relaxation phase, you can see, note the another effect. And after relaxation is over, when the stimulus is applied, then we can see the different effects. This sort of thing we also discussed in our previous class. What will happen when the stimulus, single action potential, single stimulus is applied to the muscle, and the two stimulus applied to the muscle during a latent phase and in contractile phase, relaxation phase. So again, this is also the recapitulation. Here in this figure, we can see the strength of muscle contraction can be varying when a single action potential in a muscle fiber applied, single action potential, meaning the muscle is stimulated by one stimulus only one time. Then action potential first generated in motor unit. Then after that, after the action potential is over, this is followed by muscle contraction. So muscle contraction has two phases, contractile phase and relaxation phase. And this is called the simple muscle twitch. But in intact human body, this muscle twitch, single muscle, is not stimulated because muscles are in a group. So more muscle stimulated at a time, and this type of twitch we cannot note in the intact body. There will be more contraction. In intact body, muscle contraction will be powerful. And here, this is shown in the experiment. From frog, the muscle was isolated, and then with the intact nerve, and the stimulus was applied, and the effects noted on kyamograph. So this is simple muscle twitch, which is observed when single stimulus is applied. So here is the response of an isolated muscle to single stimulus. When single stimulus is applied here, single stimulus is applied here, then graph obtained on kyamograph is like this. This is called simple muscle twitch. And this simple muscle too short and too weak, so normally it does not take place in our body. Why? Because the muscle fibers are arranged in a bundle where they function cooperatively. They function together to produce the controllable or the varying grade of the muscle contraction. And for this, this one you have also shown in your previous class. Look at here. What is this? Figure A. This shows that the stimulus is applied in isolated gastrocnemius sciatic nerve preparation, and the stimulus is applied. Two stimulus is applied here in latent phase. So look at the response. There is no change in response. We noted the simple muscle twitch. There is no other response. Why? Because when one stimulus was applied, already the action potential fired, and then this action potential goes in refractory period. So here another stimulus is applied in absolute refractory period. So here the response was not noted. In this figure B, you can see that the stimulus, this is the first stimulus applied here, and you can see the contraction, and the second stimulus is applied during the contraction phase. When the one half of the contraction is over, then the second stimulus is applied. So in this phase, we can see the summation effect. Contraction occurs, and the amplitude of this muscle twitch increases. The height of the amplitude of the muscle twitch increases. This is because of the summation effect. Then in third figure, we can see when the stimulus is applied during relaxation phase, this is relaxation phase, then what happened is superposition. Look at here. Here the stimulus is applied, again muscle contract, and then start relaxing. So superposition, incomplete summation. And the fourth, on figure D, the stimulus is applied after the relaxation is over. So in this figure, the muscle again contract with the greater amplitude, with the higher strength. This is because of beneficial effect. Now one of you, can you tell me what is beneficial effect? Anybody from class? What is beneficial effect?
Abhishek.
Abhishek. Can you hear me, Abhishek? Susan Bhandari. Susan, can you hear me? Okay, you cannot hear me. Pravesh. Nidhi. What is beneficial effect? Look at you. What happened? You are not there? Nidhi. Nidhi Bohra. Nidhi. Kriti Chhatri. Kriti. Sonali. Lohera. Junu.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is beneficial effect? Do you know? Do you know what is beneficial effect?
It is a effect due to force contraction, due to which the second contraction is of greater force, because the force contraction will be beneficial for the second contraction.
Okay, and what causes the beneficial in their effect?
Because of force contraction, there is calcium released in the sarcoplasm, sorry.
Cytosol, okay.
Yes, and that can be reuptaken for second contraction.
Okay, very good. Look at here. During first contraction, the cytosolic calcium, there was increased cytosolic calcium, but when the second stimulus is applied, still there was cytosolic calcium present in cytoplasm, and due to the second stimulus, more calcium is released into cytoplasm. So here the more calcium is available here in the cytoplasm, which causes the more contraction. So here the force of contraction increases. So amplitude of this muscle twitch increases. Actually, the force of contraction increases. So these are the effects of stimulus on the muscle contraction. Okay. So this sort of thing we discussed on last class. Here, look at here. The effect of repetitive stimulation on muscle contraction. Look here, if the muscle fiber is re-stimulated after it has completely relaxed, then the second twitch is the same magnitude as of the first twitch. But in this B, what we can see, if the muscle fiber is re-stimulated before it has completely relaxed, so it has started relaxing, but not yet completely relaxed. So before it has completely relaxed, when the second stimulus is applied, the second twitch which is produced will have the greater amplitude. This is because of summation. And in this figure C, we can note that if the muscle fiber is stimulated so rapidly that it does not have an opportunity to relax at all between the stimuli, the maximum sustained contraction known as tetanus will be formed. Then after, there will be fatigue. Fatigue begins. Fatigue is tiring. Muscle get tired. When we do lots of work, if you keep on reading continuously without stopping, then you will get tired after some time. So in between the class, we give you break so that के problem आयो भने stop गर है. Okay, so here we can see there are two factors which can be adjusted to accomplish gradation of whole muscle tension. So what were those two factors? One is the number of muscle fiber contracting in the muscle, and another is tension developed by each contracting fiber. So in last class, we discussed about the summation. There are two types of summation, spatial and temporal summation. So these are the two factors which can be adjusted to accomplish the gradation of whole muscle tension. Now here the number of muscle fiber contracting within the muscle depends upon the extent of motor unit recruitment. The greater the number of fiber contracting, the greater the total muscle tension will be. So here we can see the relationship between active tension and muscle length. This is described by length tension relationship. Length tension relationship describes the relationship between tension developed in the muscle and the muscle length. Okay. And here you can see this is the, what is the normal length of the sarcomere? One sarcomere. What is the normal length of the sarcomere? It is about 2 to 2.2 micrometer. Length of one sarcomere is 2 to 2.2 micrometer. And here in figure A, we can note that in figure A, we can note that in human body, how the length of the muscle is related to the contraction or the tonicity of this muscle fiber. Okay. So here I am going to discuss about the length tension relationship between the tension and the length of the muscle fiber in the muscle intact body. So here in the point A, we can see that the sarcomere length is about, look at here, what is the length of the sarcomere? It is about more than 1.4. It is around 1.5, 1.55. Here on this point, it is around 1.65, less than the normal length. So at this length, this is your Z line, this is the Z line, these are the thick filaments, these are the thin filaments, actin filaments. So look here, the actin filaments, here, the actin filaments, of course, the actin filaments and myosin filaments, they form the cross bridge. So number of cross bridge here is less. So the length of contraction is less at this point, And at this point B, look at here, at the point B, the sarcomere length is about 2 micrometer. The end of two actin filament now begin to, these two actin filament, they begin to come closer. So here they begin to come closer and more cross bridges are formed. So sarcomere maintains full tension at this period. While at this period, the actin filaments has pulled all the way out to the end of myosin filament. Look at the length of this sarcomere. It is increased. So no actin and myosin overlap. At this point, tension developed by activated muscle is 0. Okay, so there is a relationship. There is a relation between the length of the muscle and the tension developed. Tension developed is directly proportional to the cross bridge, number of cross bridge formation. More cross bridge, more tension develops. Here, no cross bridge, no tension develops. This x-axis represents the length of the sarcomere, while y-axis represents the tension, percentage of maximum tension developed within the muscle. So here, as the length of the sarcomere increases, the thin filaments are pulled apart from the thick filament. So there is no cross bridge formation and the tension reduces. At this point, tension becomes 0. So look at here, the tension becomes 0. And at this point, the tension remains maximum because the thin filaments come closer to the center. And here, more cross bridge can be formed. So more tension develops. And the tension develops in contracting muscle depends upon the cross bridge formation, and cross bridge formation is directly linked to the calcium and also to the ATP. Hazur? Hello? भन्न खोजेको
I know, ma'am. Ma'am,
हजुर
यो A र B मा के फरक छ?
यो A र B मा चाहिँ लुक एट हियर, A मा चाहिँ सार्कोमेयरको लेन्थ कति रहेछ? यो दिस इज 1.5, अराउन्ड 1.5. सो सम अफ दिस एक्टिन फिलामेन्ट चाहिँ के भएको छ? क्रस ब्रिज फर्मेसन गरेको छ. लुक हियर, दिस एक्टिन फिलामेन्ट यो चाहिँ कहाँ गएको छ? सेन्टरमा, टुवर्ड द सेन्टरमा मोर ओभरल्याप गरेको छ. सो यहाँ चाहिँ सम क्रस ब्रिज मात्रै फर्म भएको छ, यहाँ पनि अनि यहाँ पनि. यो वेस्टेड भयो नि त. अनि यो बी मा चाहिँ के भयो? as the length of this sarcomere increases, look at here, the number of cross bridge formation is more. So now the force of contraction or the tension developed in contracting muscles are more here than compared to A. And while comparing with this B, look at here, the actin filaments and the myosin filaments, more cross bridge formed here. So force of contraction is maximum at this length. This is actually called the optimal length, maximal length, optimal length of the muscle fiber. That is the normal length of the sarcomere. Sarcomere, the normal length of the sarcomere is 2 to 2.2. So at this point, more cross bridge can be formed. So force of contraction will be higher, will be more. So here the tension developed in the muscle within the during contraction phase will be more. That is the difference between A and B. And from B and D, the difference is that, look at here, the actin is put apart, so no cross is formed. So here the tension developed will be 0. Look at, compare this one. The tension developed will be 0. So this is compared as the length of this muscle fiber increases, the length of the myofibril increases, the length of the sarcomere increases, the tension developed will be also decreased. This is because of less number of cross bridge cycle will be formed. So tension developed in muscle during contraction is directly proportional to the number of cross bridge formation. Is this clear? Tension developed in muscle during contraction is directly proportional to the number of cross bridge formation. So in this point, we can see the number of cross bridge formation is less. So there will be less tension developed. While in this point, the number of cross bridge formation will be more. So more force of contraction, more tension will be developed in the contracting. While in this case, compared to this and this, the force of contraction will be lesser here because only few actin filaments are of cross bridge formation. Okay, so the tension or the force of contraction developed is directly proportional to the number of cross bridge formation. More cross bridge cycle formation, the tension developed will be more. So this is the difference. This is explained by your length tension relationship, length of the muscle fiber and the tension developed in the muscle fiber. So this is the explanation. Please go through it. I will provide you the slide. And then look at here. This is the tension developed or force created. Force is called the muscle tension or the force created. So total tension is the tension that is stimulated, that or stimulated muscle develops when it contracts. So this is the total tension. Total tension is the total tension that stimulated muscle develops when it contracts is called total tension. Passive tension is passive tension. This is also called resting tension. When muscle is stretched passively, by applying weight, but when it is unstimulated, then this is called passive tension. This happens because of stretching of elastic tissue. And active tension, this depends upon the number of cross-bridge cycle formation between actin and myosin. So total tension is equal to active tension plus passive tension, while passive tension is equal to this is the resting tension, which when the muscles are unstimulated, then also due to stretching of elastic tissue, the series elastic tissue, the tendon, there is a tension on muscle, that is called passive tension, while active tension is total tension minus passive tension is equal to active tension. So again, here you can see this is the resting tension, total tension, active tension, and passive tension. Passive tension, look at here, passive tension, when the muscles are unstimulated, not stimulated, then also there is a tension developed in muscle. This is due to stretching of series elastic component and the parallel elastic component. So this creates a tension that is called passive tension, while the total tension, this is developed when the muscles contracts, when it is stimulated, maximally stimulated, then total tension develops. And active tension is equal to total tension minus passive tension. So this gives the difference between these two tension, active tension. So these are the tension present or the force of contraction present on the muscle.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay.
यो passive tension चाहिँ isotonic मा हुन्छ भन्न मिल्यो त्यसो भए
मिल्छ Then we see the effects of load. Load is the weight or force that opposes the contraction of muscle. There are two types of load, preload or free load. Preload is the load acting on muscle before it starts contracting, like filling water from tap by holding the bucket in hand. Okay, when we hold the bucket in hand or when we go to the market and carry bag, so at that time, the load is applied before the muscle contract. And after load is the load which act on the muscle after the muscle begin to contract. So like lifting any object from the ground, lifting brush to the mouth. So these are the after load and preload. Now let's see the effect of load on muscle contraction. So here free load, this is a load acting on muscle under resting condition before muscle contract. It increases the length of the muscle by stretching the series elastic element. So series elastic element, when it is stretched during isometric contraction. Okay, series elastic element. So during shortening, load lifted remain constant. And after load, this is the load acting on muscle when once the muscle starts contracting. And here before the muscle starts shortening, it has to first develop force to stretch series elastic element, then the force equal to load imposed, the muscle will shorten after that. Greater the load, more force of muscle will be used up to overcome this. These are the two types of contraction, preload and afterload. Preload is muscle, the load is applied before the muscle contract. And after load is load applied after the muscle contraction. So these are the effects of the load. And here you can see in this figure, when the load is lighter, there is less load. Look at here, here the load is less, 0. And here you can see the amplitude of this curve is higher, latent period is less, and duration of this twitch is greater. But as the load increases, the latent period increases, then amplitude also decreases, and the duration of this contraction decreases. As further you increase the load, this was the experiment done. Okay, and from the experiment, as load increases, this different types of curve is obtained. And this was recorded from the Kayamo graph. And it is shown from this experiment, it was concluded that as load increases, the latent period also increases, and then the distance shortens, so duration of this muscle twitch shorten decreases, and the amplitude of this muscle twitch also decreases. Okay, if you have capacity to carry 5 kilo and somebody asks you to carry 10 kilo, okay, you can carry initially, but after few minutes, no longer you can carry that. So this is because of this load muscle shortening. Maximum velocity of shortening, as the load increases, the velocity of shortening or the velocity of the shortening of muscle, this also decreases. And with the less load, the velocity of muscle shortening will be maximum, will be high. So with lighter weight, you can contract the muscle faster, and with the more load, the contraction will be hampered, decreases. This is shown. So there is also a relationship between load and velocity. There is a relationship between length and tension. This was explained by the experiment. This is explained here. Please go through the slide. And the energy during muscle contraction, we need the energy. During muscle contraction, okay, and relaxation, these two processes are active process. Okay, the muscle contraction as well as the relaxation, both are active process. Why active process? Because in both process ATP is required. Now please tell me, anyone from the class, energy for muscle contraction. Tell me one step where ATP is required for muscle contraction. One step ATP is required for muscle contraction. One step, tell me one step where ATP is required for muscle contraction. Ronak, can you hear me? Ronak, Preksha.
Binding of actin with the myosin.
Please louder, speak louder. You are telling something, actin and myosin. Tell me one step of this contraction. We discussed about the excitation, contraction, coupling, contraction, and relaxation, right? Tell me one step where ATP is required in contraction.
To detach myosin.
Where
to end the contraction.
For
Myosin head detach.
Okay, detachment of myosin head. Very good. ATP is required for detachment of myosin head. That is very important. Okay. Another step is ATP is required for power stroke. Dear student, ATP is required for power stroke. What is power stroke? Once the myosin head binds with the actin molecule, then the myosin head is swept from 90 degree, it is swept to 45 degree, it is converted to 45 degree toward the center of this myosin, toward the center of the H zone. So for power stroke, ATP is required. Okay, and power stroke is important. This causes the sliding of actin molecule over the myosin molecule. So ATP during contraction required for power stroke. Splitting of ATP by myosin ATPase provide energy for power stroke of the cross bridge. Another, as you have said, binding of fresh ATP to myosin, this causes detachment of actin filament from the myosin, from the detachment of myosin head from the actin filament. And another important source of ATP, another important ATP is required for calcium reuptaken. Calcium, after the contraction is over, calcium again enters into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by calcium ATPase. Okay, so here the ATP is required. So in both phases, during contraction as well as in relaxation phase, ATP is required. So in excitation, contraction, coupling, both contraction as well as relaxation is active phase. There is no passive phase. In relaxation, there is no passive. It is active. ATP is required for uptaking of calcium into sarcoplasmic reticulum, so the amount of calcium decreases in sarcoplasm and relaxation occurs. And this ATP we get from 3 different sources. One is creatinine phosphate, phosphorylation of ADP by creatinine phosphate, oxidative phosphorylation that occurs in mitochondria, and glycolytic pathways. So here you can see from the direct phosphorylation, creatinine phosphate and ADP with the in muscle there are creatinine kinase enzyme. This causes the creatinine and ATP production. This ATP here, one creatinine phosphate produces one ATP. So the ATP which is obtained from this process, they are good for 15 seconds in muscle contraction. Then the next source of ATP is glycolysis. From the glycolysis, from glucose, the pyruvic acid is formed and 2 ATP is released. And from the pyruvic acid, lactic acid is formed. Lactic acid goes into circulation. And pyruvate, it goes into the mitochondria. So here, this energy 2 ATP per glucose is obtained and duration of energy provision is 60 seconds, slightly more than that of the creatinine phosphate. And the third step is your pyruvic acid. From pyruvic acid, there occurs the oxidative phosphorylation in mitochondria, electron transport chain, and from here 32 ATP is released. From one pyruvic acid, 32 ATP is released. So the duration of energy provision over here is hours. Okay, these are the 3 sources of ATP. And ATP is required for both contraction as well as relaxation of muscle. And these are the 3 sources of ATP. Creatinine phosphate, immediate source, followed by glycolysis, and then the third one is oxidative, beta oxidative reaction. So this is again the explanation. Then when we keep on doing the work, then fatigue develop. Fatigue is inability to maintain power output or force of contraction during repeated muscle contraction, and the cause of fatigue are usually specific to type of physical activity. Fatigue. Can you think why fatigue can occur when the muscles are repeatedly working, contracting? Then why fatigue occurs? Can you think one reason? Prayas. Can you think one reason why fatigue can occur in our muscle when it keep on contracting repeatedly? Prayas?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you
Because
think
of
one reason? Okay.
excessive use of ATP.
Okay, excessive use of ATP can be one reason. Very good. Excessive use of ATP. That can be. Another reason can be your exhaustion of neurotransmitter. Remember, when the muscles are stimulated, first the nerve gets stimulated, then from there the neurotransmitters are released. Neurotransmitter binds with the muscle, action potential develops in the muscle, action potential propagated along the T-tubules, then from there the calcium is released into sarcoplasm from the ryanodine receptors, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and calcium helps in contraction of the muscles. So if there will be no neurotransmitter, initially what happens? More and more muscle stimulated, more and more neurotransmitter releases. But neurotransmitter, there is no space between the production and release of the neurotransmitter. Only the neurotransmitter can release, but no produce, new neurotransmitter cannot be produced, then what happens? A time reached when there will be neurotransmitter, all neurotransmitter will finish. There will be exhaustion, there will be decreased neurotransmitter. And at that time, of course, the fatigue will be developed. Another important reason is ATP. So these are the reason. Because why? Because the fatigue develops. So these are the factors which increase the performance or affects the performance. Diet, when you take the carbohydrate and more water intake, then fatigue can be delayed. CNS function, if motivation is done, arousal, like caffeine, you take caffeine, and tea, that increases the CNS function and increases the performance, the strength, skill, practice, body type, muscle fiber type also can increase the performance. Environment, heat, altitude, humidity decreases the performance. The energy production, ATP, more ATP available, more energy performance. There will be more, the delaying of fatigue. These are the factors which delays the fatigue. This enhances the fatigue. However, this factor delays the fatigue. Okay, performance, CNS function, arousal, motivation delays the fatigue. Then the another reason is here you can see the stimulus applied, repeated stimulus applied. Finally, initially the muscle twitch contraction is faster. Then after some time, the contraction, the amplitude, the force of contraction decreases. Then after the force of contraction further decreases. And finally, there will be no contraction. The fatigue develop. We cannot do the work. This is because of failure of release of the neurotransmitter. Why? Because there is no space, no space between the release and production of neurotransmitter, and also the ATP. So these are the physiological basis of fatigue. Depletion of energy reserve. Initially, there will be more contraction, more work can be done. Then after it reduces because of energy reserve, depletion of energy reserve. Another reason, exhaustion of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine keep on decreasing because each stimulus acetylcholine releases. So there is exhaustion of acetylcholine, loss of nutrient supply like oxygen, like the nutrients. This also affects the fatigue. Nutrients, good nutrients and oxygen delays the fatigue. So with further increasing work and not taking nutrients and oxygen, this also enhance the fatigue. And when we do the work, of course, this exercising muscle, from exercising muscle, lactic acid is produced, and lactic acid, high concentration of hydrogen, potassium, these are the metabolic end products which is accumulated and enhance the fatigue. Reduces force generated at given calcium concentration, inhibits sarcoplasmic calcium release. So here the force of contraction decreases, and finally there the time reached where we cannot do the work. So these are the physiological basis of the fatigue. Non-mechanical factor. The primary mechanical factor that may be related to fatigue is cross-bridge cycling. Action of cross-bridge cycling depends upon functional arrangement of actin, myosin, calcium, available calcium, which allow cross-bridge formation, and ATP that is needed for both activation of cross-bridge to cause movement and dissociation of cross-bridge from actin molecule, myosin, detachment of myosin from the actin molecule. So as ATP reduces, the myosin attaches with the actin molecule, but since there will be no ATP, there will be no detachment of myosin from the actin molecule and less cross bridge will be formed. Please, one of you read for me. Okay, if the individual becomes sedentary, significantly reduces the amount of training. The effect of training are lost. Body also adapts to inactivity. This means if you do not revise, if you do not keep on reading, then what happens? There will be reduced, your knowledge will be reduced and finally lost. So body adapts in activity. Body adapts that. Is it true or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Please read about denervation and reinnervation. Denervation is when the nerve is cut, then what will happen to the muscle? What will be the effect on muscle? And reinnervation, when the nerve again reinnervate to the muscle, then what will happen to the muscle? Please read about denervation and reinnervation. In next class, I would like to discuss about denervation and reinnervation. I think we are left with the 2 classes. Please keep on reading with the excitation, contraction, coupling, neuromuscular junction, energy used in excitation, contraction, coupling. Okay, these are the important questions which can be asked, but do not ignore others. Other is also equally important. Okay, any question? Any question? Please read and read. If you have no question, then thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bahar.